Hello friends, Brandy here with Falcon Healing Arts. I hope you're doing really well. Welcome to the energy update for September 2023. I am coming to you today feeling so raw, just so tender. And so this is going to be a challenging one for me to get through without crying. And I will definitely be sharing my experience here with you because it has value. There is a huge message for you based on what I am sharing about my personal experience. I have spent the last few hours in spiritual connection preparing for this session with you. And so I just want to share what happened because I was not planning on spending this long preparing. I did have a light day today. Here I'm at my office, and I did have a client I was going to meet, and just had a really hard time leaving the house. I was trying to get my son set up with his schooling. He was giving me a really hard time. And I was getting so stressed out, and I was telling him that, can you please do this? I'm trying to give you direction. I was trying to motivate him because really he was just digging in his heels about something we had agreed he would do. And then he was saying he was changing his mind. So I was like, oh my God, can't you just stick to the plan and I'll feel better and I can leave and do my work without thinking about this. And so I ended up leaving the house really mad. I know that I can reconnect with him later, and I did heal that. As I was driving in the car, I knew that we were okay. We are very connected, and we are okay. But this is how the day was starting. And then when I got here to work, and I didn't leave much time between when I got here and I was setting up the room for my client, and then she ended up texting me saying, I'm stuck in traffic. Like there was an accident. She was really stuck and she wasn't able to make it late even because she had something else going on. So we had to reschedule. And so I had this hour and I had this light day anyway. So much time to just be with myself again. And I'm telling you all of this because this is the huge theme for this month of September, by the way, just feeling this tenderness. And really, I would call the whole month of just surrendering to what is. Not making a story out of it, not rehashing what happened, but just sitting with that tenderness and the love that is usually behind it. Because it is usually a loss of love or just things that have been familiar to you that have changed and it's jolting, that could still feel like loss. And it can be really unsettling. So for some people that feels more like sadness. For other people it feels more like fear. Me today, it felt like sadness because it really hit me. And this is where I'm going to feel tender again. It just really hit me how my son is growing up. And I've known this, of course. He's 13 years old. I've had the luxury of being home with him every day, almost every day of his life. We have only been separated probably less than 10 days of his whole life. And so again, we're really connected, but I'm feeling he's pulling away. This is something that naturally happens. And this needs to lessen this connection in order for him to be his own self and to have a relationship with a partner later. I really feel like that mom bond is what really needs to change in order for him to be intimate with someone else. I feel this is the case with most kids, especially that mom-son bond. And so as I was in my treatment room, just moving things around, realizing I had all this time, I ended up burning some Palo Santo. I've been really into burning herbs lately. So I was burning the Palo Santo and just physically washing it over me, mindfully removing this negativity, this anger I had, and then being like, it's not anger, it's loss. It's loss, it's this love changing. And it was just really touching. So I burned the Palo Santo, and then I burned some sage, bringing in more positivity. After I'd cleared everything away, I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I want to bring in now that I'm clear? So I was bringing in more positivity, more peace with the way things were, more strength. And then I looked at myself in the mirror, which happened to be right next to me. And as I was looking at myself, I was like, wow, and I was still moving the smoke all over me. I looked younger, not like physically, like I did not look like a beautiful maiden at all. It was like, but I looked like a wounded child. That's what I looked like. It looked like the woman I see in the mirror is looking like a victim. And I'm like, that's not you. So I kept staring, still washing the smoke over me, and it started feeling like she was a different person. And then she changed. My eyes in my reflection became so much clearer, and I was like, okay, there I am. There's the power. And then I saw that shift, and I felt that shift within me, where I could still feel tender, I could still feel that loss, a little disconnection, but the love is still there. And I could still feel powerful, spiritually powerful, meaning I know that this is a part of life. And I was feeling that I was very authentic with how I was being with myself. So again, this is how, and then I got a message from a colleague saying that her dad died, and already I was feeling tender. So I was feeling that more for her. And so as I was sitting down, preparing, and really checking in with the energy of September that we're stepping into, this was really palpable. And I was feeling it's not just me, but this is something I'm tapping into the collective here for us with Falcon Healing Arts, all the other people I'm strongly connected to, like my colleague, sharing the loss of her dad. And then it hit me that this is the time of year where we feel that the most. Here in September, we're going to be experiencing the autumn equinox it's the third week of September, right? And even though that the equinox means that there's equal amounts of day and light, it may feel balanced, it's not necessarily. Because since the summer solstice, the energy of the sun has been going down. So since that time, we've been moving into a yin time of year. And I always feel it at that point in summer where it's like, oh, okay, we're getting back to school. Like I'm already starting to feel that energy. The building excitement of summer is starting to go down. It's kind of like a Sunday night feeling when you know that things are dwindling down and just need to shift. It's not like it's less fun, but the energy definitely shifts. So you may be sensitive to that too. That things have just been feeling different since the summer solstice, and it's going to come on even more stronger after the autumn equinox. And you are probably feeling that with me right now too. Because when the sun goes down, when we don't have that vibrancy, we feel these emotions of sadness, of grief more. And this is the time of year where we naturally experience that. Here in fall, and then definitely in winter, we do see more physical loss. This is when people tend to get more sick. And as a result of that, this is when we typically see more people die. But this is also symbolic too, right? This is when we're closing out the year. Things are finishing up. And so it's important for us to allow for that to happen. Allow for this release. Allow for it all to be let go. because we know what's on the other side. It's always rebirth. The energy is going to go back up. And even with illness, there are beautiful lessons that we may experience after having that illness, where as we're regaining our health, we get that vibrancy back. We get more meaning in our life from moving through that experience. And then with death too, of course, we have to change our perspective. But when we lose someone close, after we move through those initial periods of just heart-wrenching grief, then we can be with the beauty of what their life was, what their legacy still is. And we can't feel that depth. It's so interesting because we usually cannot feel it that strongly when they're alive, in most cases. It's that loss that just completely breaks you open, and there's even more love there. And it is so, so beautiful. So I actually love this time of year. And some people may think that's crazy, but it is an energy that I welcome. And so we're naturally, again, we experience this every time of year. And I'm not going to get into what we're experiencing socially, politically. There's definitely shakeups happening. I'm just not really into that at the moment. I'm more into the emotional experiences that we're all going to be moving through. So this session is coaching us through that. And what we're experiencing with this month is going to help us deal with all the stuff that's happening in the outside world. And it's going to change how you see it. If you did not do this work with me today, because we are going to be doing a meditation here at the end, if you didn't do this, you will experience those setbacks differently, the loss differently. So I really feel that we're on track with fully embracing this surrender energy. And then if we do happen to see things really start to fall apart, which I think most of us have been braced for, come on, I know you are super intuitive. We've been feeling this for years. So it does feel like things are really going to be happening this month and probably throughout the rest of the year. But this deep emotional work is preparing you for that. And it's going to help you experience more positivity from all of this change. Okay, so I told you my story of today. I also did a journey, because it wasn't just that experience in my treatment room with the Palo Santo, but then I tapped in actually with the journey. So it was like, okay, I'm feeling this loss, I'm feeling this surrender, and then I did some drumming, which is always helpful to bring the power back more. But then I did this vision journey. And what was so interesting is that, so I'm clairsentient, I feel extrasensory, and also I'm clairvoyant. So my visions in my journeys are usually really sharp. And when I emerge through the tunnel that I go through to visit the lower world, it was very fuzzy. Like I knew I was there. I didn't have to see it, I knew it, but it was unsettling because I couldn't see clearly. And obviously I knew this was a message. It wasn't that something was wrong with me. But it was like, okay, it's saying that things are not so clear. And I was having to rely on my other senses, mainly claircognizance, knowing that I was in the right place, knowing that I was going to be okay, fully trusting. Because I did, so a guide came up to me, an animal spirit that I had never worked with before. And I did, like everything was blurry, but he came into view. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm working with you today. This is wonderful. And I won't tell you everything because it's nice to keep this relationship special. That's why I'm not naming this animal spirit, because it is between me and him. But he was showing me, we merged for a moment, and things became clearer. So it was like, okay, now that I've stepped out of Brandy, I'm in this other body and this other spirit. Things became so much clearer, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. And so I was moving with his body, and he just wanted to smell all the flowers. He was tasting berries, and it was just really, really sweet. Just this simple experience of being in this other animal's body. And really, that was much of the journey. Let me see if I wrote down anything else about it. Yeah, I was just seeing many different vantage points, and there was an emphasis on taste of what I was tasting. And it just reminded me that, so taste and smell, these are the oldest senses. And we spend so much time with what we see, what we visualize, and what we're experiencing in the world. It's what we see. We feel that that is always the truth, which we know that that can be manipulated. And it's used. There are forces that use our reliance on our vision to manipulate us. And don't get fixated on that. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I think, again, intuitively, that's something you should know. And so it is healthy to develop your other senses. And I feel like this is what my animal spirit was teaching me too. To think of things differently. We always talk about here bigger, wider perspectives, but also relying on those older senses. And what is so interesting with this, I haven't talked about it much with you here. I don't know if I've mentioned it at all, but I got sick back in April and I lost my sense of smell. I kept my sense of taste, but I lost smell. And what is so interesting about it is I could only smell sweet things. I still cannot smell pee or poo or anything really wretched. I am starting to get smell back. Now I can smell citrus. I wasn't smelling it for a long time. There's a lot of guilt around this too, because I feel like as a practitioner, I was trying all these things. I was taking an herbal formula. I was doing acupuncture on myself, on my face. And I was doing gua sha the other day, and that seems to really be opening it up too. But it was my crying session that I did a few hours ago where it really opened up my smell. Yesterday, a friend stopped by and she gave me this bag of lavender, and she's like, smell it, it's so amazing. And I was like, okay, I'll try to smell it. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's supposed to smell like lavender, and I kind of smell something different, like than what's in this room. So I know that's supposed to be lavender, but it did not remind me of lavender. Now it smells more like lavender. And this is what I burned too. Excuse me. Right before my journey, I was like, I'm going to take some of that lavender. And I made it into a little ball and I lit it on fire. And that's what I used before my journey. And as I was pulling some tarot cards, which we'll get into in a moment. So anyway, the senses are really important right now too. Because when we are feeling lost, when we are feeling distraught, we tend to hang out in the past. And that's what I really want you to not move away from, because of course we're going to experience what is. If you happen to do that, then that's just what happens. But we don't want to stay there. So it is important to be mindful of, am I getting too caught up in the past? Am I in bondage with grief? We want to let that go, definitely. It was like that moment I had in the mirror earlier where I was like, I look like a victim. I'm feeling like a victim. And I was like, I know other moms experience this. Where's that power? And I started to see that power come in. In order to get there, it's hard to do that just in the mind. And it's hard to do that just in the heart too, because those feelings are so strong. It's easier to do when we are fully in the body. Fully in the body. So I was trying my best to bring smell back. And I am going to be working more with essential oils later tonight. Like, I'm not going to be using this as an excuse anymore. Like, I'm fully going to open up this sense, and move past any blockages that are the message behind this illness. But anyway, I was saying this because that's what I feel like the journey was really saying. Rely on these other senses, but use the body. Like, in this animal spirit, I was just in his body. So that is the meditation that we're going to be doing at the end here, is more of an extra sensory experience of being yourself in the present. This is going to help you heal these stronger emotions, to process them, and to heal any of the disconnection you may be feeling with yourself, with others, as you connect more strongly with spirit. The body is so important. It holds the spirit. It is the vessel. So I want to share a few cards that validated this message. The first is the Chariot. So we have a couple of major arcanas here. The first is the Chariot. And the Chariot, you may know, is about change. And it's more about intuition as well. So it's change that you know needs to happen. And you see the black and white, and there's a yin-yang symbol here. Again, that's duality too. So it's always two sides that we're oscillating between. And there should always be that oscillation, that movement. Again, we don't want to be stuck in just one place. Some people only want to be light, thinking, there's so many meanings that we could place behind dark and light, good and bad, active and slow or stagnant. So, and it's usually the yin, it's usually the darkness that tends to get the bad rap. Again, we are moving into a yin time of year. Surrender is healthy. So I feel like this is telling us that we need both. Remember, we need both. And in this case, it means surrender to doing less, to allowing yourself to let go of, I'm talking about a lot of activity here. So maybe doing less, sitting more, being more contemplative. So allowing for more space in your life that way. You see, there is also, interesting. So I wrote peace in, okay. So here is where I was writing notes earlier, and this is where I was talking about there being lessons in illness. And I don't know why I was talking about this with this card, but I was saying there's peace in death too, of course. Especially if there's been a lot of suffering. So the Chariot is movement. It is transformation. And so we don't want to stay in that suffering stage. The Chariot helps you push through. And it's how you drive the Chariot that flavors your experience in life. Interesting. Okay, and also what struck me is when you're in the Chariot, when you're in this vehicle, there is protection. Like, that is what's adding protection. It's not like you being totally vulnerable, but you're in this vehicle that is powerful. It drives you forward and it can direct you. So remember also that you are being led by your higher spirit, maybe the Great Spirit. It's some agreement you have with the greater spirit. So trusting that and allowing yourself, again, surrender. Allow yourself to be led forward. Don't put on the brakes at this point. So even when we're talking about being more yin, that doesn't mean stop. Okay, it means pause, feel in. and see what you need to do. Okay, so the next card. The next card is the Tower. So this is the big shakeup that we know is going to happen probably this month through the end of the year. So this is definitely going to be in our lives. Again, this is what we're mainly talking about, what we're experiencing emotionally. But there is this outer reflection in the world. So all of us are also going to be seeing big shakeups in the world. So in our family life, in our community, socially, over the country, over the world. But you see the white dove right here, usually always symbolizing peace and healing. We need this big shakeup, and this is from the divine. This is something that is needed. And it's to get here. Things need to collapse. Things need to fall apart. It's part of the process. It's part of your journey. So let's try not to label it bad. And I know I did that too as I picked up the card and I was like, oh, it's just, I don't know if you want to, people don't like hearing this. People don't like change in most cases. All right. So we always end with a better card, one that you probably want to see. Again, I think this is all good. But here we're ending with the King of Pentacles. So the Pentacles relates to the earth element. This is our material life, our physical experience. So this is really what's sealing in where I was like, oh, okay, I know what meditation we're doing. Getting back to nature, having mastery over your body, over your senses. And it doesn't mean that you don't have a deep experience. It's so interesting that when we have a spiritual life, a lot of people want to ascend. And when we're talking about the chakra systems, that means opening up from below to above. So everyone wants to open up the third eye and the crown chakra to have this bigger experience of the divine. Where oftentimes, and this is the case for me too, oftentimes for a lot of people that's already open and it's more grounding that we need. Being in the body. Seeing this as a precious vessel. And then you'll experience more in the heart, stronger communication, greater insight, trusting more of your connection more. When you are fully in your body with the first three chakras. Okay, so you could take a look at the king again. Mastery is what the king symbolizes. And when I was looking at this, it was reminding me too how I'm always working on how to nurture my body. And lately it's been trying out different diets, some diets that my family thinks are a little extreme. I'm feeling pretty good. My teeth are great. It's really healing my gums. I'll talk about it later once I really have it dialed in. I'm still playing. And I'm giving myself a lot of room to play. And this is what I want to share with you too, that as you are becoming a master of your body, that's one way you can work with it, is how are you fueling yourself? How are you nurturing yourself? When we are eating, which is such a, eating has such a bad connotation to it, that we think it's not necessary. It is necessary, absolutely. This is one way we experience pleasure. Eating food is supposed to be pleasurable, but we need to be honest too, that sometimes the things that we gain pleasure from are not healthy. Processed foods are not healthy. We are not talking about that here. Some sugar is fine, but we don't want excess either. So it's also being honest about balance too. So again, as you're working with your body, you can start to experiment with the way that you're fueling yourself. See if you can be more intuitive about the way that you're eating, more in touch with taste, the sense of taste as you're sitting down for your meals. But really honoring, what am I craving? That is a whole food, that is not processed foods. And it's also good, because I don't like us being too much in our heads. It is helpful to do macro tracking, to do a food journal, especially if you're having a lot of negative symptoms, and if that's what is prompting you to change your diet, it is good to write that all down and keep track, but not permanently. It's a good tool to notice your patterns, to notice how much you usually eat, to be more in touch with what you actually consumed and what you feel has been satiating. Because there may be, addiction in the way of that, or a mindset issue. So that's helpful for a bit, but not relying on that completely, because we don't want to be too much in the head. Also, it's good to remind yourself, and you may not know this, that when we're talking about macros, protein, fat, and carbohydrates, protein is what builds the body. So it is necessary. We need our body to be strong in order to do all the things that we love in the world. So we need adequate protein, high quality protein, unadulterated if possible, peacefully grown. And then carbohydrates and fat is where it gets really sticky in the nutrition space right now if you're watching influencers. So you need to figure out what's right for you. But either of these can be your main fuel source, or it could be a balance of the two. Okay, you can't be excessive in both, because that means you are getting too much fuel. And if you are not as active in your body to burn off that fuel, then that's going to create more excess in the body. So held storage, that is what fat is. It's too much fuel that your body is saving. It's actually a healthy response that your body has made. And so remember that. And I think it's really important to look at it that way, because it's like, oh, I have some extra reserves. I will survive in a crisis if I need it. So putting a positive spin on that, and just that you need to dial things in differently and just be more intuitive about it, that is going to be a really healthy way for you to reconnect with your body. Okay. That is all I wanted to say about that. Oh, just one more thing. That as we are working with our body, and especially with diet, so I was saying with whole foods, when we're focusing on whole foods, it helps us to be more in touch with the animal world, with the plant world, with the earth that is growing all of this. So eating is not a bad thing. This is helping us stay in touch. Okay, now that's all I wanted to say. Okay, so let's get ready for just a brief meditation here. So make sure you're in a space where you can concentrate. So you may even want to pause here. It doesn't need to be absolutely quiet, because we are going to use sound to help us focus. So just make sure that you won't be interrupted by someone. And then you could sit in a cross-legged position, or with your feet flat on the floor. And follow the sound of the bowl as I ring it. Closing your eyes as you're listening to the sound, you're drawing your attention more and more inward. You may notice you've automatically started to deepen your breathing. When we close off our dominant sense, our sight, it turns our lens inward. It's not that we stop seeing, we see what's happening internally. So the movement of the breath may be highlighted here. As you tune into your inner sight, what else are you noticing? So we're going to be moving through all the sense organs here. Sometimes you may see the inverse image of the last thing that you looked at. So interesting how the eyes do that. Maybe you see blackness, maybe it's redness, maybe there's another shade of blue or purple. Are you seeing waves, squiggles? What is coming into sight? We're trying to keep our eyes very relaxed behind your lids. So we're not trying hard to see something. As we surrender in this moment, we're allowing for visions to come. So opening up to curiosity here, what is arising in the moment? Everything you see is significant. So you could even be asking, what am I meant to see right now? Okay, now we're going to shift and let's focus on the ears. Feel, sense your right ear. The sounds coming in predominantly from that side of your body. And then we'll shift over to the left ear, the left side of the room. Taking in all the sounds moving in from that direction. Not blocking with your mind or emotionally, not labeling them good or bad. And then sit for a moment balanced, centered here between both ears. Wider reception. It's like you're a dish now. Satellite dish. Sonar. You're taking in sounds from all the directions. And now this may be getting blurred a bit because sound has frequency. We can feel sound. So let's go to that sense of feeling next. What are you feeling on the skin? You may want to do a body scan starting from the head down. So you're grounding as you go. Feeling of your hair on your head. Can you feel its weight? The air on your skin in front and back of you, on each side. Maybe you can feel sound vibrations. Feel your feet firmly on the floor, or your legs against the surface you're sitting on. Feel your weight, your density. Fully let go with gravity. Feel your breath moving inside the body. Can you feel your heart beating? And then switching to your mouth. Notice the moisture in your mouth. Do you need to swallow a few times to moisten it? Is there a taste on the tongue, reminding you of the last thing you ate? How relaxed is your mouth? Then we'll go up to the nose, just above that. Taste and smell, so close in their association. What smells are you perceiving? This is direct communication with the brain, with the oldest part of the brain, what we call the reptilian brain. So important. Giving us information, helping us process experiences, translating them into emotions, thoughts, and actions. What you smell can alter your mood. So one of the most important therapies, aromatherapy, can be healing that. And just for a moment here, all senses wide open, all organs we deem important. Actually, we're going to keep the eyes closed still. So eyes closed, but all the other sense organs open. giving you this sense of being whole and fully present in your body. And now you can feel into your heart space. Are there any emotions that come up around that? What does it feel like to be whole? Are there any thoughts that come in around this as well? Let's come back with deeper breathing. Gently open your eyes. You can stretch out, shift any way that you need to. So the last thing I suggest you do, friend, is to look at yourself in the mirror. So open up your sight that way. Can you see into your soul? And sit with that just a bit longer. Because I feel like it's going to be so important for you to have this connection with yourself, especially for the month of September. So I hope you gained great insight from this, friend. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how the month goes. I'm always interested to hear. Last month was so spot on. I will also come in. I'll make this declaration so I'll remember it too. I'll try to come in halfway or toward the end of the month and talk about how that feels for me in the comments below of this YouTube video. And I just recalled that that how the word surrender came up for me too was around the full moon. And in the beginning of the August energy update, I was saying how the full moon that was happening at the beginning of the month is what flavors the month. And that was clarity. And we just had a full moon peak yesterday. I'm recording this on August 31st for September. And as I was feeling into it, this Pisces full moon and how it was very emotional, but it just felt like such a strong letting go, that it was like something that just has to happen and you need to trust. Surrender is what the word that really stuck out. So I made this many days ago. And so I feel like this full moon is what is flavoring September. Now, I don't know if that's always going to be the case, but I love that it's working out this way because now I have this essential oil blend that I could use for this month. You could get this too if you are local to the San Francisco Bay Area and you want to be a client of mine. I am giving away essential oils around the full moon. But anyway, I hope, friends, that September is awesome for you. Let's stay in touch. I hope the very best for you. Well wishes, friend.